Hey guys, this is just a really small, very short video on an eyeshadow look. It's more like a smoky cut crease, and excuse the bag on my head. I was doing my oil treatment, but here using some Morphe brushes, and that's the thickest one of all because I'm going in with my transition shades. That's the Impressed You palette, and as you can see, I'm using the lightest colors in the palette to sort of like apply my base. In doing this, you make your canvas. And yes, I did apply some excuse the dogs in the back, some eye primer, so I just didn't record that part. But in applying a very light color all over your lids, it makes the colors that come after a lot easier to apply. And as you can see, I'm just going one shade darker each time I apply in the same area, and that creates your gradient. As you can see, I'm still using the fluffiest of the brushes, or the largest, and again, they're all Morphe brushes. So this is really a sort of like a classy, smoky, bronzy sort of eye with a nice cut crease. And the biggest reason why I wanted to do this one is to show you the many different ways that you can create a cut crease. There's the pencil technique, there's this technique, and then a few others. I think I've gone over most of them, if not all of them, but this is just a really easy smoky eye, and for those of us with the hooded eyes, you know, those cut creases come in really handy. So just a little small. I didn't want a big long a video on, I didn't want to do a full makeup look, just an eyeshadow look. Um, for me, that's the most interesting part of the makeup because it's for the eyes, and it's just a nice fashion uh, type of, like, I don't know, it adds fashion into your makeup looks, I guess, is why we love it so much. So the eyes, to me, and the brows are the focal point of the face. So I just thought I'd do a really nice eye makeup look. And so that's a Wet n Wild palette I just pulled out. Most of these products I have either used before, and so you'll know what they are, and if not, and there's something I'm using that I have not identified, please leave a comment below and I will be more than happy to identify it for you. But really, it's only 3 palettes anyway. It's a Morphe palette after the Impressed You palette. All of these palettes you can get on Amazon. The Morphe palette is more like earth tony with a lot of reddish and orangey undertones, and it's a small palette of about maybe 16 shadows. And then the last palette is a small palette that you see right here, the Wet n Wild palette. And I love this palette, and I think everybody should have a palette like this because it has a little bit of everything, and it has those beautiful orangey and corally and pinkish reds in it, and then a bunch of, well, not a bunch, a few earth tony shades, which we all love. So a combination of like everything in one small little palette, and they're not expensive and they're great quality. So here you'll see I'm using a smaller, thinner brush, and this is an e.l.f. brush. It's not a Morphe brush. So, and that's because we're getting into our crease area. When you go down, as you go down, you will need smaller brushes. So working these colors, and the colors will get darker as well until you get to your lid. So because I'm in my crease area, you'll see the colors are bright, dark, and the brushes are smaller. And that's because this is where you're gonna shape your eye the most, in that crease area. And for those of us with hooded eyes, that's a little more challenging, which is where the cut crease comes into play. And then here you see I have an even smaller brush yet. Again, I'm sorry, this is not all Morphe. This is another e.l.f. brush. And here I'm just getting my little shape, because there's many shapes you can use depending on your personal eye shape in order to cut your crease, and you can go higher, lower. You can put that crease where you want it. So in this case, that's where I want it, and I'm stuffing it right in the middle of my high and low crease, just dead in the middle of the eye, right where the eyeball, if you take your finger and push, begins, that's usually where I will cut my crease. And for the most part, really, that's where it should go, but you can put your lines where you want them. It will create a different shape of eye is what it will do. And just for the sake of having fun and being creative, I don't like to say you have to put your line where your eyeball. Technically, yes, that's where it should go, because that's where your eye folds. But for the sake of being creative, you can put your line where you feel comfortable having your line where, to change the shape of your eye, it works quite well. So that's why I don't designate that you put your, excuse me one moment. Sorry for the interruption. And so here I'm going on the brow bone with a smaller profusion palette, and that one I get at the store Rainbows, and I am highlighting my brow. And then another technique to further cut your crease and make your lines really nice and neat. And I just think it's a really, really cool look, and it makes it so precise that anybody would swear this is your eye shape, because it is just so perfectly. This makes it so perfect. So this technique here I love to use with the concealer. However, as soon as you set this down, and obviously I'm using a concealer brush as a wet product um, by Bare Essentials. This technique here, the only problem is you must grab any powder, which you're going to see in a second. I just grab any powder and set it immediately, because if not, that's going to get really cakey and all creasy, and that's not pretty. So as soon as you lay that down, grab any powder. I did not really mean to use this color, but it was just for the sake of just grabbing any powder and setting that concealer immediately. You're going to see now I go into the color I really wanted to use and just go right over that. So as soon as you use your concealer product to cut your crease, you need to grab your first shadow instantly and set that, even if it's not the color you're going for, as you can see I did here. But using the Profusion palette, I use a couple of beautiful highlighty shades. One is a tealy shade, and that's this one here. One is a very deep green, and then one is a very light yellowy goldish color, and that goes on the inner part of my eye. And then you'll see this is the real dark green, and it's going to go on the end of the eye. You'll notice most colors, when they're dark, they'll go towards the end of the eye. Um, well, always. Not always, but most of the time. Towards the end and up a little on the lower crease. And then that's from the Morphe palette, and I chose another, this is like a foily shade, to go over the first two uh, highlighty shades that I used from the Profusion palette. And that just gave it a nice, like a different sort of shade, kind of like my own color I think I created there. And then going in and redoing again with this is a Morphe brush, the other one was an elf brush. These are liner or brow brushes. Go in and redo your cut crease line with whatever color you used. In my case, I used a brown with a reddish undertone, and then towards the end of the eye, the tail of the eye on the crease. This is so hard to explain. A blackish grayish color. So I'm just redoing my lines and reblending them out so that you have that precision going on there. And then reblend it all out. I'm going to go under the eye with that pinkish red from the Wet n Wild and create a nice little sort of like Egyptian type of shape on the bottom. And then use some Wet n Wild liquid liner. I didn't really get as precise as I really like to get with my liners here, because this to me was more about the shadows. but the idea is there. And then I do my brow off camera and my lashes. So that pretty much is the content of this video. And as you can see here, I'm just doing my my last final finishing up touches. So that's why I'm kind of like summing up here, because we're getting to the end almost. So I'm just going over everything I've already done, and that's just for more precision. This is kind of like a I wouldn't go out during the day with this amount of eyeshadow, but then again, age may have something to do with that. For you younger ladies out there who, like to wear makeup and don't have a problem wearing, harsh colored makeup or bright colored makeup, where us older women will shy away from that. Yeah, go for it, but this is something personally I would wear at night. It is not um, a daytime look, at least not for me, it wouldn't be. But I think it's a very beautiful, like a smoky-ish. It's got that reddish undertone that I love so much, and then it got some corally shades incorporated, and oranges with brown undertones, and browns with orangey undertones. So just you can see how many colors I'm dipping in here, and that's because this palette has all of those types of colors in it, and so does the Impressed You palette. So it's sort of like a mixture of golds, uh, pinky browns, and corally um, types of colors, as well as bronze type of colors, bronzy type of colors, all in one eyeshadow look. And then the lid is like a tealish highlight or foily type of color. So I like this for a nighttime event, but for you younger women or women who like um, bold glam makeup for the daytime, everybody's different. Uh, I guess this would be for you. And so I'm going to not talk too much and let you guys look at what I do here for the final touches, just like I just narrated. This here is the grayish black, and I'm going to use it kind of like an eyeliner on the top and the bottom, and then I'm going to use that liquid liner to get that really bold Egyptian shape to the eye to go over the pink. And so the pink is going to just peek out, as you can see here. So that's the final look, and until I put another one up, hopefully in a couple of weeks, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys really soon. Bye-bye.